Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Welcome to part two of the Stagg SET CST guitar. Still don't know what that stands for. It's a pretty terrible name. They make another style of Telecaster called the Vintage T style, which is the same Telecaster shaped body and the more traditional lipstick pickup in the neck position, and the bridge pickup is the same. So yeah, I'm not really sure what that stands for. It's not doesn't exactly roll off the tongue when you say it, but regardless, doesn't matter. So what we're going to do today is take the guitar apart. We're going to take the neck off, take the electronics, the pickups out, the control plate. I think I'm going to take all these tuners off and take the remaining string tree off. I did manage to find a replacement for the output jack cover, a black one. And I also found replacement string trees, Fender style, and also in the black color. So I think, I think it'll look nice when it's all done. And we've also got the black control plate, which I already have. And I showed you that in part one of this video. Before we start taking things apart, one thing I forgot to do on part one was to check the fretboard radius. And I already checked it with the Music Nomad gauges. There we go. This has got a 14-inch radius. And it's a straight 14. It's not a compound radius. What a compound radius fretboard means is that you'll have a different radius on the fretboard up here as you will down here. And well, generally speaking, you're going to have a tighter radius by the headstock, and it'll gradually get bigger as we go along. So for example, you might have a 9.5 or a 10-inch radius up here. And as you go up the fretboard, you might end up with a 14 or a 16-inch radius at the end of the fretboard. But this guitar does not have one of those. It's 14. I'm going to show you how to measure that. The Music Nomad gauges recommend for a fretboard radius, you take the measurement with the strings off at the last fret. So you would do that down here, for example, or here. What I do, and I think a lot of people do, is they'll check it at multiple spots along the board. That's another way to tell if you've got a compound radius. So if you're measuring 14 down here, and then you're measuring 12, and then you're measuring 10, well, you've got a compound radius there. I don't think it's not really a big deal. We're not doing any serious work on this guitar as far as the frets go. The ends are a tiny bit sharp, but it is that time of year. It's early spring right now that I'm filming this. So we might have to do a little fret dressing, but I need to clean these frets anyway, but we'll look at that later on. Today will just be about taking the guitar apart and stuff and getting the electronics out. So before we do that, I thought I would just quickly show you how to use your fretboard radius gauge. The way I like to do it, and I'm going to have to show you this on, hopefully this shows up here. So I bring my light down really close, like that. Hold on, let me zoom you in because you can't see that. So let's just use this location as an example. So you can see there's no light showing underneath this gauge. And when I go like this, and I'm exaggerating to show you, but when I rock it with my hand, I don't really feel the gauge rocking. Now, if I were to say take a tighter radius, like let's go, well, let's use 9.5. So you can see there's a little gap of light showing underneath that right here. Okay, now it's not rocking because the edges of the gauge are sitting on the edges of the fretboard, but you can tell that this is not a 9.5 radius fretboard. So if we move up to 10, still got a bit more light. 12, okay, you can see there's a little sliver of light going through there. And then if we move up to 14, that's where we see it. Now, if we were to jump in the other direction and go up to a 20-inch radius, you see that rocking action there? Like it's the lights on either side of the gauge, and I can rock it on the fretboard. So I know this radius, this gauge is set for a very flat fretboard, and this fretboard is not that flat. That's why it's doing that. Okay. Now you can also use these gauges here, with style of gauge, these things, and the same idea applies. Like you can see, this is a 7 1/4 gauge, so this is a really tight radius. So you can see what the gap is underneath there. It's quite a bit. But the procedure for measuring is the same. You just lay it here at the last fret. Most people check it throughout the fretboard to see what you're dealing with. But in this case, we've got a 14-inch fretboard radius. So I just thought I'd show you that before we take the neck off and stuff and carry on from there. Okay, so let me just stop the video. I'm going to grab some tools, and I'll be right back. Okay, I got the guitar flipped over. I'm going to take the neck off now. We've got our 4 bolts that are going through the back of the body. Okay, you can see I was holding this neck and body with my left hand as I was using the drill to remove these screws. The reason being, when you remove the screws off, this is going to happen, right? So as you're doing that, you don't want the thing to come loose or fall down as you're working on it. So I just like to hold it in place with my left hand. There we go. Okay, so the neck's off. Now, before I do anything else, I want to take a quick look in the neck pocket. What I'm looking for to see if there's any kind of a shim or anything in here, but I'm not seeing anything. There's nothing on the back of the neck as well. You can see there. I'm not sure what that hole there was for. That's weird. Not sure what happened there either. But, I mean, it's in good shape. I mean, there's no... looks like somebody did a little sanding on the side, probably just to make it fit in the neck pocket a little more snugly. Yeah, it's a pretty snug fit. I mean, could be a little tighter, but it's not loose or anything. Like, yeah, it's okay. That's fine. So, okay, there's no shim in there, which is good. I mean, shims aren't bad, but if there is a shim in there, sometimes they're really, really small. And if you're taking the neck off and the thing falls off, and you got to make sure you be aware of that, because if the shim is placed in this area, let me zoom you in here. So sometimes the shim will be placed at the back of the heel here, and sometimes the shim will be up here. You might even see side shim. So you need to know where that shim was sitting. So when you put it all back together, you want to put that shim in the same spot, unless you're doing some modifications to, remove the shim. But let's get these screws off here. Most guitars will have 4 screws holding the neck to the body with a back plate, and the screws are usually all the same size in the length. And yeah, these 4, they're all the same. That Aria Pro 2 guitar that I had shown in one of my other videos, those screws used to secure the neck to the body were different sizes. So again, when you're taking these out, just be aware that you may have one or two screws that are shorter than the other ones, and you just want to be mindful of where they came out of, so when you put it back together, you're putting everything back in the same spot. Not a concern in this case. So, and also another little trick is to get some of these little plastic trays, these little containers, just to hold all your parts. I put most of my metal parts and stuff in one tray, and then maybe I'll use a second tray if I've got like plastic pieces and stuff that I don't want to get scratched up. But these things are cheap. You can get them at the buck store. Not much to them. So I'm just going to move the neck out of the way. Put it over here. Okay, we'll work on this side now. Okay, let's take this control plate off. And you also want to be mindful of the screws you're taking off. In this case, there's two black screws holding this control plate in place. And there's also the pickguard screws. Now, when the guy gave me the pickguard, he didn't give me the screws that came with it. Now, I have other screws, but I don't know if I have black ones. I'll have to look. If not, I might have to just use the chrome-looking screws, which should look okay. Probably not a big deal to get black ones just to make everything match the black finish, but we'll worry about that later. And again, you just want to be mindful of which screws came from where. Normally the pickguard screws and these control plate screws are going to be the same size, but if they're not, just be mindful of where they came from. And let's see what's going on in here. So here's the wire for the output jack, which I've already removed. The ground actually broke off on it, so I just moved it out of the way already. And we've got our pickup wires here, so we'll need to keep an eye on where they went. So again, if you're new to this, I would suggest take a photo of where these wires are going if you're not familiar with how to wire a guitar. That way, when you put it all back together, you won't have such a hard time with it. Let me zoom in a little closer here. There we go. So, with these Telecaster style guitars, the great thing about them is they're really simplistic as far as how they're put together. All your control stuff is in this one cavity here, all your electronics. Easy enough to remove. Like if the guitar had strings and stuff on it, you could still access all this stuff here. If you needed to do a repair or swap out something on like a Stratocaster, you would have to, at the very least, loosen tension off the strings, remove the pickguard and try and slide the pickguard out of the way, or just take the strings off and then lift the pickguard out, because all the potentiometers and the switches and everything and the output jack, it's all fastened to the pickguard. So you need to remove the pickguard to get access to all that stuff. So it's just the way they are, but that's something to keep in mind. Telecaster style guitars are nice for this type of thing. So again, take pictures or maybe just do a little diagram for yourself so you know what's what. Let me move the camera over here. Get more of a straight on view of that. Now, I don't plan on making any changes to here. I might change this switch, but there's nothing wrong with it. Probably don't need to, but well, whatever, I'll think about it. The pots are fine. There's no scratchiness. Everything's good there. The soldering looks okay. Like there's no obvious problems. This looks a little loose. No, it's just the wire. That's fine. So I think we'll be okay here. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to snip these wires off, and then when I reconnect everything, I'm going to skin the wires back, and resolder everything back to where it was. So that's our control plate removed. And again, a good thing about this is if you're doing some work and wanted to get it out of the way and you're ready to put it back together, you don't even have to take the potentiometers and the switches and stuff off. You can leave them on there and just resolder and get everything back in place. So that's another nice thing about the Telecaster style control plate. Okay, next up we'll take the pickups off. Just reposition you here. So we'll start with the bridge. This guitar is what they call a top loader. The strings go in through the back here. I don't know if that's showing up on the camera. Some guitars on the back will have the holes in the back of the body, and the strings will go through the holes, and then they'll feed up through the bridge plate and then over the saddles. These ones, the strings will feed in through the back here. And yeah, there's no, that's a preference thing. Some guys say that the guitar strings through the body gives it a different sound, a tone. I don't know about that, but I think it might. It's hard to say. I'm just gonna loosen these off by hand first to make sure there's no issues here. There's 4 screws holding this plate down. Pretty tight. Okay. Okay, we should be able to do the rest with the drill now. You know, I'm going to get my electric screwdriver. Okay, so I got those screws are out. And that's how we take that back plate off. I'm just going to pull this wire straight through here, get it out of the way. Give you a better look at this. So I mentioned before about the top loader. You can see the holes in the back here, just underneath the intonation screws. That's where your string would feed through there, and then they would go over top of the saddles just like they would in any other guitar. So again, nothing really to do here. This is pretty clean. Yeah, I might not have to do much. Well, you know what? We'll see. I could take these saddles off, take the screws and the springs and everything off, and give it a cleaning. But it is pretty clean already. I think the previous owner recently put this on, so it's not like it's all covered in grime and stuff. It's a little dusty, but we can deal with that. And plus, it's got that matte finish, so there's nothing to really polish on here. Like, we can clean it, but we can't really polish it up because of the matte finish. But let me take a look at the pickup wires here. Yeah, there's no obvious issue there, but we'll test it later once we get it all back in the guitar. So we'll put that aside. And then the next one is the P90 style pickup, this guy here. Now there's two screws holding this on there, and they look really worn out. Like they're Phillips head, but they're very rounded off. So I'm going to have to be careful. I don't want to make them any worse than they are. Yeah, well, that's got a good grab. We're going okay there. That screw seems a little wonky to me. I'm going to have to take a look at it once we get it out. You see how it's kind of wobbling around? There we go. Now, there might be a little bit of a bend in it. Pretty minor. Let's see what the other one does. Yeah, wow, that's in there really tight. It's slipping a little bit, but shoot, yeah, that one's slipping around a little bit. It's coming out, but very. Every time that happens, I'm rounding that screw head a little bit more. I'm going to have to take this like a little bit at a time until I can get some purchase here, but probably speed this up in the video. This is kind of boring to watch. That's what happens sometimes when you're dealing with these used guitars. I don't know who did this, but you don't want to rush something like this because, you know, if you start rushing and you start spinning that screwdriver head, there, now it's coming off a little easier. You're just gonna round it off even more, and you'll never get the damn thing out. But it's coming now. I'm gonna see. I'm almost positive I don't have any screws like this. I'll take a look. But it'd be nice to replace these. Yeah, like here, let me show you. I don't know if you can see that, how, some light here, how rounded that screw head is. But we'll worry about that later. So as you can see, here's our pickup. These little screws are what was holding it down into the body here, these holes here. There's some crud on there. So you got your two holes that go right through the pickup body here, and they screw right into the body of the guitar. And these little springs are what provide you the resistance to raise and lower the pickups. So that's how you make your adjustment to raise and lower your pickups, or through those two screws I just removed. So you loosen them off, the pickup's going to raise. You tighten them down, the pickup's going to go deeper into the pocket. And those springs are what will keep it in place. So yeah, let's just take this right out of here. No reason to take this apart. See if I can maybe polish the plastic a little bit. It's got some scratches on it, but is what it is. All right, I'll put that aside. That's it. They're pretty straightforward. These Telecaster styles are nice to work on. Next, I'm going to take the strap buttons off. So there's one here and one at the back right there. Oh, I also ordered replacements for these. Not that there's anything wrong with these ones. What I wanted to put on here, because I plan on keeping this guitar for myself, is the Jim Dunlop strap buttons, which have a real fat end on them. So they're really good if you've got a guitar strap that's kind of worn out. Here, I'll show you. Like this old strap I got here, you can see how the strap hole is really worn. So it goes on there easy, but it pulls off real easy too. Now, probably won't happen when you're playing, but sometimes, you know, if you've got your guitar strapped around your neck and you lean over or you pick something up or do something on your pedal board, and this might just come loose and flip off. So the Jim Dunlop ones are they got a real fat end on them, so they're pretty good for that. So I figured I might as well put those on. I've used them on a lot of guitars in the past, and they work really well. Make sure you're in frame here. And same thing, we're just going to use the Phillips screwdriver, get these off. And these are nice and tight, so I don't think we'll have to worry about fixing these holes, because these strap buttons are not loose or wobbling. And you can see there's a little piece of felt on there. Just make sure you don't lose that when you remove the strap button, because it'll help keep the this section of the strap button here, you can't see it, right there above my thumb, from scratching up the body of the guitar. And same thing on this side. And this also got the felt on the end, so just make sure you don't lose those. And that's it. The guitar has now been stripped down to just the body. There's nothing else on there. So the next step will be to polish up this body. That's what I'm going to do. Not in this video, but in the next one. So let's move this aside. Come back to the neck. I think the only thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this string tree off. Zoom you in here. And this is just another Phillips screw. And I think I'm going to take the remaining tuners off as well. Just going to tighten the locks down. So I'm going to take these off just so I can make it a little easier to clean them. And again, these aren't really matte. They got a little bit of a shine to them, but we'll just wipe them down because they're in pretty decent shape and they're fairly new. But we are going to be doing some sanding on the neck here before we finish. So might as well just get these off and get them out of our way. So I like to remove, you know what, let's go this way first. These should be a 10 mil. Just check that. Yeah, so this is a 10 millimeter socket. So I'm just going to break the seal on it. Oh, it's tight. Yeah, these are on there pretty tight. You don't need to tighten them on that much. Wow. Whew, man, those are really tight. Okay, so we just loosened them off a little bit. And, with these ones, you want to be careful you don't scratch up the finish because they're black. Now I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to take the set screws out. It's just a single screw to hold the tuner in its place. There's just a little screw that holds it in place. And then, probably do this by hand. And I like to kind of put everything back together as best you can so you don't lose the washer and the bushing and that. And put them all in your little trays. Okay, well, I'll do the remaining 4 here. You don't need to watch it. It's pretty straightforward. Let me just stop the video here. Okay, I'm going to take the electronics off the control plate because we're going to be swapping out this control plate for a new one. I'm still not sure if I'm going to replace these electronics. Right at the moment, I'm thinking no, because there's nothing wrong with them. So why change them out if there's nothing wrong with them? But we'll see. I got some spare parts. I mean, I could, but we'll see how I feel. We'll see how the project rolls along. So I'm just going to take these 2 screws out that are holding the switch in place. Now this little cover, they call it a top hat style, it just pulls off. And there's your 3-way switch. This is what they call a PCB switch, printed circuit board. There's nothing wrong with these. They're pretty common in modern guitars. There is another style, like a more mechanical switch, where there's no circuit board on it. Those are really good. They're a little more money, but there's nothing at all wrong with these. But when these fail, they're done. You got to replace them. There's really no fixing these styles of switches. So I'm just going to put these screws back into their holes so I don't lose them. And then we'll take these potentiometers off. Now these particular knobs, some light over here. There's no hold down screw. Oh, there is a hold down screw, yeah. Okay, let me just get a closer look at that. Okay, so there's a little hex nut inside there, a little grub screw that's holding this knob onto the shaft of the potentiometer. I think that's too big. Uh-oh. That's too small. Oh, there we go. Just wasn't seated in there right. So just loosen that little grub screw off, and she just should lift right out. So just to show you. That's all that is. And we'll do the same for the other one here. Okay. So we're just going to remove these potentiometers. Excuse me. And this looks like a 10 mil as well. Yeah, so that's another 10 mil. I'm just going to loosen those nuts off. Take them off by hand. And there'll be a little washer on there, so just be careful you don't lose that. There we go. Okay, so now that we got the plate off, you can see we got the bigger holes here where the shaft of the potentiometer would go through. And these smaller holes are for this little tab on the potentiometer right on the side there, where my left thumb is right there. So that little tab would fit in the hole. Let me see if I can line this up here for you. Like that. And that would prevent the pot from moving as you're tightening things up. So that'll hold it in place. Okay. So I remember him saying something about, like, he drilled this hole. I'm not sure why he drilled it way over here. Because you can see the hole for the potentiometer is right there. Now, if you're using a larger sized potentiometer, like a full size. These are what they call dime-sized pots because they're the size of a dime. And there's nothing wrong with them, but you'll see them on most budget and entry-level guitars. But they work fine. And the bigger ones, maybe he was going to put a bigger potentiometer in there, and that tab on the side may have been, further out, but that's pretty far out. So I'm not sure what that's all about. I mean, it's no big deal, but it kind of ruins the look of the plate. And this tape is going to leave all sorts of gunk on the finish. There we go. Yeah, so not all potentiometers have those tabs. So you just got to check. You know what? I got a larger one. Let me just grab it and I'll show you. So this is what they call a full-size potentiometer. And as you can see, there's no tab on the side like these ones have. You can see the size difference here. So yeah, it's hard to say. Some of them will have that tab, some of them don't. If you're going to do any kind of an upgrade, or if you're going to be swapping out your potentiometers, that is definitely something you want to watch out for, because, for example, if this control plate had no holes in it and you were going to use a potentiometer like this, you would have to either drill a hole to accommodate that tab, or you'd have to cut that tab right off with a pair of side cutters, and you'll probably have to smooth it down with some sandpaper just so it lays flush against the back of this plate. So that's kind of a up to you decision, whatever you want to do. I mean, you got to make sure you've got a right drill bit size to get in there and you're comfortable, drilling through your control plate, because if you screw it up, well, there's no recovery there. Your control knob will hide some of that, as you can see there. It'll cover up that hole a little bit, but something to be aware of. So yeah, I'm still on the fence on whether or not I'm going to change these out. There's nothing really wrong with these. I'm going to reuse these knobs because of the brass color, and they'll match the saddles on the bridge. So yeah, I think right now I'm going to leave them. We'll see how things work out down the road. Easy enough to change later. That new control plate I have. Oh yeah, this is a good example. So here's the new control plate. See, there's no holes in it, other than the standard holes for the potentiometers. The spacing's a little different, but that won't matter. So if we wanted to reuse these, like I was just saying, I was thinking on doing it. You can see that thing isn't going to sit in there properly because that tab is either got to be cut off, or I got to drill through the plate to accommodate it. So now I'm thinking maybe I will swap these pots out and use like a full size one like this. Yeah, I'll have to think about that. I'm not 100% sure. I don't like drilling into these plates unless I really have to. I mean, why mark it up? You risk scratching it. Like, there's a few things that can go wrong if you're doing that. But yeah, I'm leaning towards not using these pots now. Anyway, I'll think about it. That's a little ways away yet, so something to keep in mind if you're looking to do modifications on your instrument. And I like to put the washer and the nut back on the potentiometer. And that way, if I don't use it, I just put it in a little one of my trays I keep for spare parts. And that way there's a nut and a washer ready to go for its next job. And if you look closely on here, let me zoom in a little bit. You can see that little letter on the top, A500K. That's the resistance value of the potentiometer. So this is a 500K pot. This one should be the same. This is a B500K. So they're both 500K pots. The A is what they call an audio taper. So that means when you're turning the volume from off or low to the lowest setting all the way up to the maximum, so say 0 to 10, the taper of that it'll be barely noticeable till you get about, I'd say, maybe 60 or 70% of the way to maximum, and then you'll hear the full swell of the volume change. The B on this other pot here, that stands for a linear audio taper, which means as you turn from 0 to 10, you're going upwards incrementally from 0 to 10. So it's more consistent. So, 40% of the way is 4, 60% of the way is 6, and 100% of the way is max, is 10. Now, it may seem odd to have an audio and a linear taper. You'd think that a linear taper would be the way to go for a volume control. However, your ears don't hear that taper the way it looks on paper. An audio, if you use a linear taper for a volume control, it'll work. It just won't sound quite right. Most people will use an audio taper for the volume pot and a linear taper for the tone control. But that, again, is a preference thing. Most guitars will come wired that way. I am a little surprised that they're 500K pots. I would have expecting 250K because this guitar's got a single coil in both positions, the neck and the bridge. But maybe that P90 pickup works better with a 500K. I've never had a P90 style pickup on any of my guitars, so I'm not too familiar with how they're wired. I'll have to go online and see if I can find some more information. But this is basically a 500K, or I'm sorry, a single coil pickup. Normally you see a 250K pot, but that's not a hard, fast rule. It's just generally what you see. 500K pots you would normally see with guitars that have humbucker pickups in them. But again, it's not the end of the world. Easy enough to change. I'll do a little digging because if I'm going to swap these pots out, I'm going to need to know what kind to use, 500 or 250. But that's something to do later. So I think that'll do it for this part of the video. There's really nothing else to take apart on this guitar. The only other thing I wasn't 100% on was the guitar nut, because when I got it from the guy, it only had a few strings on it. They played okay, but I really won't know what's happening with this nut until I get new strings on it and see how it plays. It seems fine. I asked him, he said it was fine. Not a big deal. If we need to swap it out, we'll swap it out, but I'm just going to leave it. There's no point in messing around with that unless we have to. But yeah, that's about it for now. I think the next step will be polishing that body up. That'll probably be in part 3. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.